Ladies and gentlemen, Watch Dogs is here, so in this RedGamingTech.com video review we're going to be taking a look at it. If you want more information you can go ahead and check on the article. You can find the requisite link in the video description below. So Watch Dogs has been easily one of the most hyped games of the next generation, and I think it's fair to say has been a massive roller coaster. There was concerns over visual downgrades, there were concerns over certain leaked footage that was released and much more besides, and now we've actually got the game in our hands. The big question is, should you go ahead and part with your cash? Short answer is yes. It's not without faults, but it has so many highlights that they easily outweigh the bad. So I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the storyline. It's certainly not going to be super in-depth. I don't want to give away the story. It basically places you in control of Aiden Pierce, who is of course the main protagonist, and the backstory will pretty much unfold as you're playing the game. These include dreamlike sequences as well, which will give you an idea of what happened, including the accident which claimed his niece's life. And so you start off pretty much with a clear mission: payback. You want to find the people who did it, make them pay. And if that doesn't sound a particularly unique or different motive, then you're going to be forgiven for that, because there are certainly elements of the story that have been told several times over before, but they work and are effective. It's actually the presentation of the storyline which is the strength of this game. The storyline is told in an extremely strong way. The voice acting, the narrative, even the subtle gestures of the people's hands as the conversation unfolds, and even the way they might have a slight pause to maybe reflect on the thoughts for a moment, it's all very natural, and it's all what you would come to expect of a AAA title, for example, from Ubisoft. Cover itself works pretty damn fantastically. It actually reminds me of more Splinter Cell Conviction than Gears of War in terms of how you duck between cover and cover. But if you've played either game, you'll get a brief overview of how it works, and certainly you'll have an idea and not be completely helpless. It works pretty similarly. Rather than Aiden hard-locking to a piece of cover, you could somewhat move fluidly, which works really nicely. It's worth noting that Ubisoft also borrows from its own Assassin's Creed titles with the free running aspect. Indeed, if you're used to free running in pretty much any game, especially Assassin's Creed, it's going to become pretty much part and parcel of this. You simply hold the run button along with a different button to start free running, and when you do so you can vault over fences, cars and all the other bits and bobs that you would expect. Let's get into hacking. Hacking is fun. It can be a little bit frustrating at times. That's not to say it's perfect. Hacking in the game is done via a single key. So you can hack cameras, mobile phones, ATMs, and use that to overload power grids and stuff. Now, the reason I say it's a bit frustrating is because early on you don't get access to a lot of stuff, which can mean that in certain situations, for example, when you're being chased by the police, if you do something naughty, for example, accidentally brandish a weapon in public, mostly because you forget to, well, put it away, the police will chase you, and it can be a pain in the butt to get away from them. But quickly you start to unlock abilities. On that same subject, there can be a few line of sight issues that I personally had, particularly if you're not really paying attention because you're more focused on the bad guys rather than what you're doing in terms of the hacking. For example, there's a couple of times where I accidentally blew a power line rather than using a camera. Now, this is my fault, but I do feel that certainly a separate button, for example, for scanning the area as well would have been quite nice. Overall, however, hacking works extremely well, particularly when you're on the run in a car, for example. You can, of course, raise bollards, you can raise bridges and all the other bits and bobs that you would expect as you're in the middle of a chase, and certainly it works pretty much like you've seen from the various trailers. If you've tried to avoid all the stuff from Watch Dogs and just jump right into it, one of the aspects that may be a little bit strange to you is how you can hack an item from another item. For example, you can have camera A locate camera B, use camera B to say look for even another camera, even in a different room if you so desire, and then use that camera to say find a guard and then jam his communication device. It's really strange. One area I wish that you could do something with is have different buttons in, say, so you could disable his radio or make him explode. I wish there was that little bit of extra control. Unfortunately, how it basically works is only some of their equipment is vulnerable. Therefore, it basically you get what what you get. Combat is pretty much like every cover game you've ever played, to be honest. You hold one button to hard aim, you press another button to shoot, and profit. You're going to be pretty much going straight into the game without too much difficulty. Aiden is woefully inaccurate over long ranges, particularly at the start of the game, but as you progress, once again, the skills tree does help out, and you'll begin to improve various weapon skills. For example, pistols become more accurate, you'll reduce, say, the wobbling of the gun in between shots and various other bits and pieces. So overall, I absolutely think the game is fun to play. It has a couple of small frustrating moments, as I've mentioned, but certainly nothing too bad. Graphically, I'm not going to mention too much in this in this video, because we're going to be doing analysis of like all the versions anyway over the next couple of days, and I think it's going to be more conducive to see them all hand in hand. But overall, the game does look fairly beautiful. I would say there's no real areas that I thought to myself, well, they didn't really put much work into this area. No one really thought at the office that people would look at it. No, all of it looks beautiful. There are a couple of areas where there was a bit of oddities. For example, pedestrians flying a bit too high occasionally if you mow into them. The occasional limb going through, say, a doorway. Particularly if the enemy falls near the door if you shoot them. But these are all very minor complaints that I can't really focus upon. Overall, the lighting, the textures, and the overall ambience of the game are brilliant. Once again, not a particularly technical description, but I will be doing it more in depth later anyway. And finally, the city itself is absolutely huge. So it does suffer from the same problem as many open world games. You can't enter every single building, for example, and there is a slight air of the clone brush in some spots, but that's to be expected from a city anyway. I mean, if you look at the city, quite a few buildings do somewhat look alike anyway, particularly in larger cities. But Chicago is pretty much everything you'd expect. You get waterways, slums, huge skyscrapers, and everything else in between. You can even swim. So if you so wish, you could swim across one side of the lake to the other. Not a particularly effective strategy to avoid the police, just for your FYI. So overall, I'm a pretty big fan of Watch Dogs. It's not perfect. It does have a few issues, primarily in that some areas definitely do feel kind of familiar. Are not out of the broken mold, but overall the game excels in the way it tells its story. The hacking is fun and, well, enjoyable really, to set various traps and to watch you lure in enemies and then blow up, say, a gas pipe and watch it take out like half your enemies at once as you cackle maniacally. And overall, I would definitely recommend this purchase to anyone. As I said, not without faults, but I don't think any game is perfect, and is easily one of the better games so far released this year. If you want more information on my thoughts and opinions, you can check out the full written review, as I said, in the video description. And for more information on the graphics, check out over the next couple of days where we have much information on this. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care, and bye for now.